So, I was asked to tell some stories about Alvin from a personal perspective, and not got too much, and I lack the gift with words that some people have, but I can fake it. So probably many of you know that Alvin was an excellent tennis player. And looking at the demography of the people here, probably many of you have heard of a guy named Paul Harvey, who was a gifted radio speaker who brought something called The Rest of the Story. And I'm going to tell you the rest of the story about Alvin and tennis. He was an excellent tennis player. In his later life, he continued to play tennis at a high level, not as well as when he was a little younger, but at a high level. And what he realized, or what turned out to be the case, is that all he had to do was keep playing tennis at a highly competent level and stay alive, and he would get better and better compared to other people his age. I believe he won a state championship in his 60s or something, simply because he outlived his opposition or something. And he tried to inspire his two sons to play tennis because he thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And my older brother, David, went along with him. David was a kindly, cooperative kid. I was a rebellious little bastard. And I made it clear, after some initial gestures of complying, I made it clear to Alvin that I would go to my grave not playing tennis. And this was this along with the failure of the molten salt reactor were probably his two great sorrows in life. So now for the rest of the story. Alvin was enjoyed sports as a kid and was small but relatively athletic. And then when he was a teenager, a doctor saw him and listened to his chest and said, you've got a heart murmur. And Alvin was possibly even more neurotic than I am, and he immediately freaked out. And in those days, the proper treatment for heart conditions was complete rest. And so he stopped all athletic activities for like 20 years. It was probably aggravated when his father died young of a heart attack. And then in the early 50s, modern medicine saw things a little differently and thought that exercise might be good for you actually if you had a questionable heart. And Alvin took experts very seriously and started exercising and soon became fanatic about his tennis. While I resolutely refused to this day to play tennis, in my dotage, I took up running, and indeed, in my own way, I've become quite a good runner. And again, the trick is to keep breathing and do your sport, and you'll do all right. Okay, that was one story. Do I have time for a second?
You get another, yes.
Okay. Second one. Times have changed. Alvin was born in, I believe, 1915. He grew up, he had some difficulties as a child. It was a tough time for everybody, and it was a tough time for him. He was a firm believer in progress, which was sort of an idea that permeated American society in that era. And in 1915, out of every 1,000 children born, 200 would be dead by the time they were 5. Today, out of 1,000 children, 5 will be dead by the time they're 5. Alvin had diphtheria when he was 5. He survived it. At that time, the mortality rate was something like 20%. It went out of business. Probably none of you ever met anybody who had diphtheria, and the reason is because they introduced a very effective vaccine. Alvin was scarred by the Depression, and you could see it by his interest in using coupons and taking advantage of Shoney's all-you-can-eat buffet, and so on. When I was a kid, he would ask me if I encountered any incidents of anti-Semitism, and it seemed like sort of a weird question to me, but when I thought about it, I thought, well, yeah, there's a few kids say things, it was no big deal. And I didn't see why he made such a big deal of it. And then, as I got older, I realized that his generation, it was a thing. And so he had a cousin, Leon Sternfeld, who became an eminent physician. And I knew Leon well. He majored in chemistry in college, and he loved it. He was very good at it. And he tried to get his professor to write a letter of recommendation for him to go to graduate school in chemistry. The professor said, no, you're a great student, but you can't go to a chemistry graduate program because you're a Jew. And they won't hire you as a chemist. What is that? There were, my father had an uncle, Joe, who lived in Michigan, and there was he had a little resort, a little tiny resort. I guess it specialized in a Jewish community trade, and there were towns nearby where it was, everybody knew that if you were Jewish, you couldn't be there after dark. Well, good news is times have changed, and this just isn't a thing anymore. And I think that it's a statement about the world, and it's a statement about the country, that things have changed so much. And I think that in many ways Alvin's view of progress was accurate. Thank you.